How to accelerate your early stage ACL recovery with cross education training. Now, I assume you've not heard of this. It's a bit of a mouthful to say, but it's quite a simple concept, really. So, I'm just going to talk you through it. So, cross education training, what is it? So, essentially, if we think about ways to get stronger, we know in simple terms that you can either build a bigger muscle to get stronger, or you can improve how your nervous system fires. So when you make an action with your brain will send a message to the muscles in order to recruit as much muscle fiber as possible. If that signal is strong, then it will recruit more muscle quicker, and you can get stronger that way. So that is better for like performance. So um, being more powerful, being faster, etc. That's where that kind of neural drive comes in. So cross education training is essentially training the non-operated leg heavy, and that works on the neural drive. Now, obviously, if you've had a contralateral, so opposite leg graft, this may go out of the window. So this is if you've had surgery on one side, you've had the graft on one side, and then you've essentially got another completely healthy, pain-free leg. So I'll just share a study, and this is essentially the study that I used in order to program and execute cross-education training. So this is specifically with certain exercises. So there was essentially a control group where they didn't do any cross-education, and there was a 30% quad strength loss in the reconstructed limb at 10 weeks. Whereas in the cross-education group, there was only a 16% quad strength loss in the same time. So essentially halving the strength loss with zero direct training on the operated leg, which is obviously quite significant. So just by training the non-operated leg heavy, the healthy leg heavy, you can get around 14% increase in strength. So it's such a low-hanging fruit that we can potentially utilize with our early stage recovery, because that additional strength will make everything easier. You can return to impact drills a lot quicker the sooner you get your strength up. So essentially, when they did the cross education training, it helps improve the non-injured limb by 7% in strength, and then the control group actually lost 7% by not training their non-operated leg, which is a common problem that I see is that let's say for example I start working with someone after surgery and it's not immediately post-op from the start, they will have lost a lot of strength on both sides. So you're essentially getting two weak limbs. That's going to happen anyway, generally speaking. For the most part, it's difficult to completely avoid, but if you execute cross-education training properly, then you can actually maintain that strength quite well. So it's just worth being aware of. This isn't appropriate for everyone, which I can sort you through. And at 6 months, the control group failed to reach their pre-op strength, whereas the cross-education group had. So this essentially says that if we can train the healthier non-operated leg sooner, we can actually achieve our strength goals a lot quicker. So it's just that kind of cascading effect that comes with an ACL reconstruction. What can we do to mitigate any strength loss, and that will move you along your recovery a lot quicker? So how to do it? So essentially the study started from week 2 to week 10, so 8 weeks of heavy strength training using the leg press, the leg extension machine, and the hamstring curl. So really, really simple. And I tested this out myself after my ACL surgery, which you can see in those 3 videos there. In reality, most people aren't going to be in the gym after 2 weeks. It's normally 4 to 6 weeks. I got back to the gym after 17 days, did upper body, and then started this on the 18th day. So I was 18 days post-surgery. So even for myself, it wasn't quite the 2 week mark. But I wouldn't overthink the time that you do it. Just when you can get back into the gym, whether it's 3 weeks, 6 weeks, etc., this is something you can start to pick up and do straight away. Essentially, you're training at 80% of your 1 rep max. You might not have a clue what that means. That means how strong you are for 1 rep. Most people don't have that data. If you've done any prehab and done some gym-based testing, then You can utilize that and work out what 80% of that number is. And then you're essentially doing 5 reps, which equates to about 80% of your 1 rep max, and 3 sets. So it's not even that much. It's not particularly time consuming to do. If you don't have any 1 rep max data, then you can use reps in reserve, which is essentially you pick a heavy weight for 5 reps and then you aim for um, 5. But if you have, say, 0 to 3 reps in reserve, let's say you do it with 3 reps in reserve, you could probably at a push, if someone held a gun to your head, get to 8 reps. Whereas if you did it to failure and you have no reps in reserve, then you would stop at 5 reps. But that 5 rep weight would obviously be heavier than the weight that you did if you had 3 reps in reserve. So you don't have to max out all the time. It's probably worth doing 1 set to failure, but you don't have to absolutely bash yourself up. So when I was doing this, obviously you've got a painful leg, it's still a bit tender, it's still a bit sore. I was still a bit apprehensive around training as you're building your confidence back up in the gym. I did the seated leg press there. I quickly went onto the incline as well, just because when you're sliding up and down on the seat, you have to bend that operated leg, and that was a little bit tender at times. So incline or horizontal, whichever works best for you, depends on the type of machine that you've got. So I'll just run those through for you. So you can see high effort in my face, drive through the sled and pushing myself up. So I think that was probably around maybe 130 kg. Leg extension, so you can still see I've got my plasters on. Clips have been removed at that point. So I'm going heavy. So I think that was around 50 kg I was doing. No, on my good leg, sorry, it'd been a little bit heavier, maybe 60. And then hamstring curl, that would have been about 35 kg. So I've done nothing on my operated leg with these, just my non-operated leg. So I'm trying to keep that standard high. And this is just an example session that I'll do with my clients. So I might do a warm up on the bike. I'll have a cross education section, so including the leg press, seated hamstring curl or prone hamstring curl, whichever one you've got access to. Single leg extension. So this is their operated leg would have been the right. Obviously, they're doing the cross education with the left. I might do an isometric leg extension on the operated leg. So that's essentially holding because a lot of people can't tolerate the sort of dynamic load through the knee quite early on. Might do a double leg calf press and then a specific rehab operated section where you're doing like hip thrusts, hamstring bridges, which should all be quite manageable early on, and then your hip abduction either with a band or the cables at the gym. And then as time goes on, as things get stronger, the initial surgery starts to calm down. We can then start to integrate the machine-based workouts week by week into their routine. So essentially, by the time they get into week 8, they're training both legs, but they've got their non-operated leg training heavier and the non-operated leg training with a higher rep range. So it might be 12 to 15, say on a hamstring curl. Obviously, that's going to be much less weight, but you're still training that operated leg, the non-operated leg, sorry, in that 5 rep range. So in summary, I wouldn't overthink it. With stuff like this, whether it's cross education, blood flow restriction, I'm a big believer in just going and giving it a go, testing it out, because ultimately you're not a professional athlete. You're going to be doing your workouts by yourself. See what kind of works, but just take away these basic principles. So 5 heavy, hard reps on your good leg as much as you can. When I did it, I was a little bit lower than I was 2 weeks ago because I lost a little bit of strength and power in that 2 weeks, so I couldn't quite do the same weight. But that's fine. I just built that up and I got it stronger over as the weeks went by. 2 to 3 times a week. I personally just did it twice. That's how my week was set up with my training. In the research, it says to do it 3 times a week, but I still got really good strength gains. So if you can do it 3, perfect. If you can get there, that's fine. So kind of every other day. So it might be a Monday, Thursday, Sunday, and then maybe the week after you might just do it, say on a Wednesday or a Saturday. So that might be how it's set up. But it depends how consistent your structure is. And don't worry about how soon after the surgery it is. Like I say, whether it's 2 weeks, if you can get there at 2 weeks because you're doing well, perfect. If it's 6 weeks, that's fine as well. Obviously, your training history will dictate whether this is a sensible thing to do. If you're fairly new to the gym and you've not trained heavy before, I wouldn't worry too much about this. I would just train maybe the 8 rep range, so a little bit heavier, really push yourself. And then as you get your confidence up, start to bring that rep range down to 5 with a heavier weight. So with my clients, some will get straight into this. Others, I don't worry too much because it's just going to overcomplicate things and make things more difficult when they've not got the experience to necessarily do it. So that's the end of the video. Hit subscribe if you want to keep an eye out for more useful ACL recovery strategies like this. If you are interested in getting more formal help, as always, DM me at @RickWilliams_ACL coach on Instagram. I'd be more than happy to chat and see if we can implement some of this kind of stuff in your ACL recovery program so you're getting the best results as quickly as possible.